The old woman's jewelry box trembled in Emma's hands. Not from her nerves, though her heart was racing. No, this was different. The carved wooden surface seemed to pulse with life, whispering secrets only she could hear. Emma Chen had learned to live with her gift or curse depending on the day. Emotional synesthesia, the doctors called it. When she touched certain objects, she didn't just see memories. She felt them. Every joy, every heartbreak, every moment of pure love crashed through her like waves against rocks. Most people thought she was just really good at organizing old photos and family heirlooms. They had no idea she could feel the love story in a grandmother's wedding ring or taste the tears on a child's favorite teddy bear. Today's job seemed simple enough. Sort through the estate of Adrian Cross, recently passed at 93. Her grandson had hired Emma's memory curation service to organize decades of family treasures. Easy money, she'd thought. She was wrong. The moment Emma stepped into the Cross mansion, something felt different. The very air seemed charged with emotion, layers upon layers of love, loss, and secrets that made her skin tingle. Even now, standing in Eleanor's bedroom, she could sense something powerful waiting in that jewelry box. Emma took a deep breath and lifted the lid. The world exploded. Pain. Terror. A little boy crying in the dark. Then warmth, safety, grandmother's arms wrapping around him like a shield. Love so fierce it took Emma's breath away. But underneath it all, something else. Something that made her gasp and drop the box. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. Emma barely had time to steady herself before the bedroom door burst open. There he stood, tall, dark-haired, with eyes like storm clouds. Even without her gift, she would have known he was dangerous, rich, powerful. The kind of man who could buy and sell her world without blinking. Adrian Cross, her mysterious employer, finally showing his face. "What did you see?" His voice was rough, demanding. He stepped into the room like a predator, all controlled grace and barely leashed power. Emma's gift flared again just from being near him. Layers of walls, built brick by brick over years, pain so deep it had roots, and something else, something that made her pulse race. I'm just organizing your grandmother's things, Mr. Cross." His gray eyes studied her face, searching for lies. "You look like you've seen a ghost." More like felt one, Emma thought. She bent to gather the scattered jewelry, her hands shaking slightly. "Your grandmother had beautiful taste." When Adrian moved closer, Emma's breath caught. This close, she could smell his cologne. Expensive, masculine, with hints of cedar and rain. This close, her gift was going haywire, picking up fragments of emotion from him. Loneliness, anger, and desire so sudden and fierce it made her cheeks burn. "She raised me," he said quietly, watching Emma's careful fingers sort through Eleanor's treasures. "After my parents died." The jewelry box chose that moment to sing again, flooding Emma with love, worry, and desperate hope. A grandmother's prayers for her broken grandson, wishes that he might find someone to heal his wounded heart. Emma's eyes flew to Adrian's face. For just a moment, his mask slipped. She saw the vulnerable boy hidden beneath the billionaire's armor. Her heart ached for him. Then the mask was back, cold and perfect. "I trust you'll be discreet about anything you discover while you're here," Adrian said. It wasn't a request. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. She had no idea what she'd gotten herself into. But as Adrian Cross turned and walked away, leaving her alone with his grandmother's memories and the lingering scent of his cologne, she knew her life would never be the same. The jewelry box hummed with satisfaction, as if it had just set a plan in motion.
Welcome to another episode of Ever After. Kindly comment where you are listening from and subscribe so you don't miss out on our next episode.
RCT 1, The Haunted Estate Scene. 1. Emma arrives at the mansion. Rain drummed against the windshield as Emma's beat-up Honda crawled up the winding driveway. Through the storm, Cross Manor rose like something from a Gothic novel, all towers and shadows, windows that gleamed like watching eyes. Emma's stomach fluttered with nerves and something else. Anticipation, maybe. She'd been working as a memory curator for 3 years now, but she'd never had a client quite like Adrian Cross, tech billionaire, recluse, the kind of man who made headlines just by breathing. She parked her car next to a sleek black Tesla and grabbed her equipment bag. The rain soaked through her cardigan within seconds, making her shiver as she ran toward the massive front door. Before she could knock, the door swung open. Ms. Chen. Adrian Cross filled the doorway, even more imposing in person than in the business magazines. Tall and lean, with the kind of sharp jawline that belonged in cologne ads. But it was his eyes that stole her breath. Gray like storm clouds, intense and searching. Mr. Cross. Emma tried to keep her voice professional, but being this close to him made her gift go wild. Emotions crashed over her in waves. Control, power, and underneath it all, a loneliness so deep it made her chest ache. You're soaking wet. His gaze traveled over her damp hair, her rain-spotted glasses, her vintage cardigan that had seen better days. For a moment, something flickered in those storm-gray eyes. Interest? Concern? Then it was gone. Mrs. Henley will show you to my grandmother's rooms, he said, stepping aside to let her enter. Everything you need should be there. I'll be in my study if you have questions. The housekeeper appeared as if summoned, a kind-faced woman in her 60s who clucked disapprovingly at Emma's soggy state. Come along, dear. Let's get you dried off before you catch your death. As Mrs. Henley led Emma up a sweeping staircase, Emma couldn't resist glancing back. Adrian stood in the foyer, hands shoved deep in his pockets, watching her climb the stairs. Even from a distance, she could feel the intensity of his gaze like a physical touch. He's a good man, Mrs. Henley said softly, following Emma's glance. Lonely, though. Been that way since his parents passed when he was just 12. His grandmother, Eleanor, God rest her soul, she tried her best. But some wounds go too deep. Eleanor's rooms were a shrine to a life well lived. Photos covered every surface. Eleanor as a young bride, as a mother, as a doting grandmother teaching a dark-haired boy to make cookies. The boy grew older in the photos, but his smile grew dimmer. By the teenage years, young Adrian was all sharp edges and guarded eyes. Emma touched a silver-framed photo of Eleanor hugging teenage Adrian. The memory hit her like a lightning bolt. You don't have to be strong all the time, sweetheart. Eleanor's voice, gentle but firm. It's okay to let people in. I can't, Grandmama. It hurts too much when they leave. Oh, my darling boy. Someday you'll find someone worth the risk. I promise. Emma jerked her hand back, gasping. The emotions from the memory, Eleanor's fierce love, Adrian's desperate pain, left her shaking. Miss? You all right? Mrs. Henley peered at her with concern. Fine, Emma managed. There's a lot of love in this room. Mrs. Henley's eyes softened. Aye, there is. Eleanor Cross had the biggest heart of anyone I knew. She never stopped hoping her grandson would find his match. Thunder crashed outside, making Emma jump. Through the rain-lashed windows, she could see the lights of Adrian's study burning bright. Was he watching the storm too? Thinking about his grandmother's hopes and dreams? Emma shook herself and began unpacking her equipment. She had work to do. But as she started sorting through Eleanor's treasures, she couldn't shake the feeling that this job would change everything. Each object sang with memory, with love, with the desperate wish of a grandmother who'd wanted nothing more than to see her wounded grandson whole again. The storm raged on, trapping Emma in a house full of secrets. And somewhere in his study, Adrian Cross worked late into the night as if he could outrun the ghosts that lived in these walls. Scene 2. First memory flash, childhood trauma, revealed Emma had been working for 2 hours when she found the music box. Hidden in the back of Eleanor's closet wrapped in yellowed tissue paper, it looked innocent enough. painted ballerinas frozen in eternal dance, a delicate melody that played when she wound the key. But the moment Emma's fingers touched the wooden base, the world disappeared. Screaming, metal twisting, rain on broken glass. A 12-year-old Adrian crouched in the back of a limousine, eyes wide with terror. His parents' voices, sharp with anger, cutting through the storm. "You're never here, Richard. Your son needs his father." "Don't lecture me about family, Catherine. At least I'm not having an affair. Stop the car. Both of you, just stop." The world spun, lights flashed, then silence. Adrian's voice, small and broken. "Mama? Papa?" But they would never answer again. Emma jerked backward, the music box tumbling from her hands. She hit the closet wall hard, sliding down to sit on the floor as tears streamed down her face. The phantom pain in her chest was so real she could barely breathe. That poor little boy. No wonder Adrian kept everyone at arm's length. "What the hell are you doing?" Emma's head snapped up. Adrian stood in the closet doorway, his face a mask of cold fury. But his eyes held panic. "I'm sorry," Emma whispered, scrambling to her feet. "I didn't mean what?" He stepped into the small space, making it feel even smaller. Emma could smell his cologne again, could feel the waves of emotion rolling off him. Anger, fear, and something raw and desperate he was trying to hide. "The music box," she managed. "It fell. I was just lying." His voice was soft, deadly. "I know that look. I've seen it before in therapists' offices. The pity, the poor little orphan boy expression." Emma's gift flared, showing her flashes of Adrian's memories. Doctors and therapists and well-meaning relatives all looking at him with that same expression, all trying to fix him, all failing. "It's not pity," she said quietly. Adrian laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No? Then what is it?" Emma met his eyes, seeing past the anger to the hurt underneath. Recognition. Something flickered in his expression. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I lost my parents too," Emma said simply. "Not in an accident. Cancer took my mom when I was 15. Dad couldn't handle being alone, so he just checked out. Emotionally, I mean. He's still alive, technically." Adrian's mask slipped slightly. "I'm sorry. Don't be. We're not our tragedies, Mr. Cross. We're what we choose to build afterward." For a moment, they stood in the closet together, surrounded by Eleanor's things and the weight of shared understanding. Emma could feel Adrian's walls wavering, could sense the lonely boy inside fighting to get out. Then he stepped back and the mask was firmly in place again. "Be more careful with my grandmother's things," he said coldly. "Some of them are irreplaceable." He turned to leave, then paused. Without looking back, he said, "My study door is always open, if you need anything." It wasn't much, but for a man like Adrian Cross, Emma suspected it was everything. After he left, Emma carefully picked up the music box. This time, she was ready for the memories. She let them wash over her, the pain, the fear, but also Eleanor's love wrapping around young Adrian like a shield. "It's not your fault, sweetheart. None of it is your fault. But if I hadn't been fighting with them, children argue with their parents. That's normal. What happened to them was an accident. A terrible, horrible accident. I miss them so much, Grandmama." "I know, darling. I miss them too. But you're not alone. You'll never be alone as long as I'm here." Emma closed the music box, wiping away fresh tears. Eleanor had kept her promise, loving Adrian fiercely until the day she died. But now he was alone again, building walls to keep the pain out. What he didn't realize was that those same walls were keeping love out too. Thunder rumbled outside, softer now as the storm began to pass. In the distance, Emma could see lights still burning in Adrian's study. Was he thinking about their conversation? About the music box and the memories it held? Emma returned to her work, but her mind kept wandering to the man down the hall, the wounded boy who'd grown into a guarded billionaire. the grandson who'd been loved so fiercely, yet still believed he was meant to be alone. By the time she packed up for the night, Emma had made a decision. Adrian Cross might think he was irreparably broken, but his grandmother's memories told a different story. They spoke of a boy capable of deep love, fierce loyalty, and breathtaking tenderness. All he needed was someone brave enough to see past the walls. Someone like her. Act 2. Secrets Unveiled, Scene. Adrian's hidden laboratory discovery. Emma arrived early the next morning, determined to make progress on Eleanor's extensive photo collection. She'd barely slept, her dreams filled with fragments of Adrian's memories and the haunting melody of that music box. Mrs. Henley greeted her with coffee and warm scones, clucking over Emma's pale complexion. "You look tired, dear. That storm kept you up?" "Something like that," Emma murmured, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Is Mr. Cross in his study?" "Left before dawn," Mrs. Henley said, shaking her head. "Always working, that one. Has a laboratory in the East Wing where he tinkers with his inventions. Barely sleeps, barely eats. His grandmother used to worry herself sick about it." A laboratory. Emma's curiosity sparked, but she pushed it aside. She had work to do. The morning flew by as Emma sorted through decades of photographs. Eleanor's life unfolded in snapshots. Her wedding day, Adrian's parents as children, family holidays filled with laughter. But it was the later photos that captured Emma's attention. Pictures of Adrian growing up, his smile becoming more guarded with each passing year. Around noon, Emma needed a break. The constant flow of emotions from the photographs was exhausting, even for someone used to her gift. She decided to explore the mansion, maybe find a quiet garden to clear her head. She was wandering the East Wing when she heard it, a low humming sound like machinery. Following the noise, she discovered a heavy door marked private in elegant script. The humming was coming from behind it. Emma hesitated. She had no business snooping around Adrian's private spaces, but something about the sound called to her. Her gift was reacting to something beyond that door, sensing layers of emotion so complex they made her skin tingle. The door was unlocked. Emma slipped inside and gasped. She'd found Adrian's laboratory, and it was like stepping into the future. Sleek computers lined the walls, their screens displaying complex data streams. High-tech equipment hummed quietly, processing information she couldn't begin to understand. But it was the central workstation that stole her breath. Surrounded by monitors and neural mapping displays, it looked like something from a science fiction movie. And the label on the main screen made Emma's blood run cold. Project Tabula Rasa, Selective Memory Modification. Fascinating, isn't it? Emma spun around, her heart hammering. Adrian stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. Today he wore dark jeans and a navy sweater that made his gray eyes look almost silver. "I'm sorry," Emma stammered. "I heard the machines and I was curious." "It's fine." He moved into the lab with fluid grace, seemingly unbothered by her intrusion. "I was going to show you eventually anyway." "Show me?" Emma couldn't hide her confusion. "Why?" Adrian's smile was sharp-edged, dangerous. "Because you have something I need to understand." He gestured toward the neural mapping displays and Emma's stomach dropped. Brain scans filled the monitors, detailed, comprehensive, clearly taken without the subject's knowledge. "You've been scanning me," she whispered. "The mansion has discrete sensors throughout," Adrian confirmed, his voice clinically detached. "I needed to understand how your brain processes emotional information differently. Your reaction to objects, the way you seem to know things about people's memories. It's remarkable." Emma backed toward the door, but Adrian was faster. He didn't touch her, didn't trap her physically, but his presence filled the space between her and escape. "Don't run," he said softly. "Let me explain." Against her better judgment, Emma stayed. Maybe it was her gift picking up the desperation hidden beneath his calm exterior. Maybe it was simple curiosity. Or maybe she was already falling for this complicated, dangerous man. Memory is the root of all human suffering, Adrian began, his eyes growing distant. Every trauma, every heartbreak, every moment of pain, it all lives in our memories, poisoning our ability to move forward. He gestured toward the equipment surrounding them. What if we could change that? What if we could give people the choice to forget, to erase the memories that haunt them and start fresh? Emma stared at him in horror. You want to erase people's memories? Not erase, edit, selectively remove the traumatic elements while preserving everything else. His voice grew passionate, animated. Think about it, Emma. No more PTSD. No more depression caused by childhood abuse. No more lives destroyed by a single terrible moment. Like the night your parents died, Emma said quietly. Adrian's mask slipped, just for a moment. Among others. Emma's gift was going haywire, picking up waves of pain and determination from Adrian. She could feel his absolute conviction, his belief that he could save people from their own memories. It was noble and terrifying at the same time. That's not how healing works, she said gently. Our painful memories make us who we are. They teach us empathy, resilience. They destroy us. Adrian cut her off, his voice harsh. I've watched it happen. Hell, I've lived it. Some memories are too toxic to keep. Emma stepped closer, drawn by the raw honesty in his voice. Is that what this is really about? Saving other people, or saving yourself? For a moment, Adrian looked utterly vulnerable, like the lost 12-year-old boy from the music box memories. Then his walls slammed back up. Both, he said simply. The technology is almost ready for human trials, but I need to understand how your gift works first. You process emotional memories in ways that could revolutionize everything. Emma's mind reeled. You want to experiment on me. I want to work with you, Adrian corrected. Your gift could be the key to perfecting the process. Think of all the people we could help. Emma backed away, overwhelmed. The man she'd been falling for was a brilliant scientist playing God with human memory, and he wanted to use her gift to do it. I need time to think, she whispered. Adrian nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. Of course. Take all the time you need. As Emma fled the laboratory, one thought echoed in her mind. What if Adrian succeeded? What if he could actually erase the memories that caused so much pain? And the terrifying follow-up question, what if she wanted him to? Because living with her gift, feeling everyone's pain as if it were her own, sometimes Emma wondered if forgetting would be a mercy. Scene 4. Grandmother's love letters reveal family curse. That evening, Emma sat in Eleanor's bedroom, staring at a stack of love letters tied with faded ribbon. She'd found them in the bottom drawer of an antique escritoire, and now she couldn't bring herself to read them. Not after what she'd discovered in Adrian's laboratory. The letters hummed with emotion, love, longing, and something deeper, something that felt eerily familiar. Finally, Emma untied the ribbon and opened the first letter. The elegant handwriting was faded but legible. My dearest Eleanor, I dreamed of you again last night. Not the usual dreams lovers have, but something more. I saw your childhood, felt your mother's lullabies as if they were sung to me. When I woke, I could taste the tears you cried when your father left for the war. Is this madness? This gift that lets me feel what you feel, know what you know? The doctors say I'm having episodes, but I know better. I know your heart as if it were my own. Forever yours. William. Emma's hands trembled. William Cross, Adrian's grandfather. The letter was dated 1952. She opened another letter, this one in Eleanor's graceful script. My beloved William, you are not mad, and you are not alone. What you feel when you touch my letters, when you hold my photograph, I feel it too. My grandmother called it the family gift, or curse, depending on how you look at it. The women in my family have always been able to feel the emotions left behind in objects. My grandmother said it skipped generations sometimes, appeared in different forms. She could read wedding rings like novels, know a couple's entire love story with a touch. But I've never heard of a man having the gift. Perhaps that's why it's so strong between us. Two hearts that can truly know each other, completely and utterly. All my love. Eleanor Emma set the letter down with shaking hands. A family gift. Eleanor had the same ability Emma did. She read faster now, hungry for answers. The letters painted a picture of a love story unlike any other. William and Eleanor, two people who could feel each other's emotions, share each other's memories. They understood each other in ways most couples could only dream of. But there was a darker side. Letters about the overwhelming nature of the gift, the way it made everyday life exhausting. Eleanor wrote about days when touching anything left behind by strangers would leave her bedridden, drowning in foreign emotions. Sometimes I wonder if this gift is a blessing or a punishment, Eleanor wrote in one particularly heartbreaking letter. To feel so much, William. To carry everyone's pain as if it were my own. There are days I wish I could just forget. Be normal. Emma's breath caught. She knew that feeling intimately. The final letter in the stack was different, newer. Eleanor's handwriting was shakier, aged. My dearest Adrian, if you're reading this, then I am gone, and you have finally met her. The one I've been waiting for. The one who carries our family's gift. I know you don't believe in such things. You trust only in science, in what can be measured and proven. But love, my darling grandson, love is the greatest mystery of all. She will understand you in ways no one else can. She will feel your pain as her own, know your heart without you having to speak. And you, my brilliant boy, will want to fix her, to save her from the burden of carrying so much emotion. Don't. The gift isn't a flaw to be corrected. It's love made manifest, empathy given form. Yes, it's overwhelming sometimes. Yes, it hurts to feel so much. But it also allows us to love more deeply than most people ever will. Your grandfather understood. He never tried to change me only to love me as I was. I pray you'll find the same wisdom. Give her my jewelry box, the one with the dancing ballerinas. Inside, you'll find something that belonged to my grandmother, something that might help her understand what she is and what she could become. Love is not the absence of pain, Adrian. It's the courage to feel everything and choose connection anyway. All my love, always. Grandmama Emma wiped tears from her cheeks. Eleanor had known. Somehow she'd known Emma would come, known Adrian would need her. The jewelry box. Emma rushed to where she'd left it on Eleanor's dresser. This time, when she opened it, she was ready for the memories. But instead of visions, she found a hidden compartment she'd missed before. Inside lay a delicate silver pendant on a thin chain. The moment Emma touched it, warmth flooded through her. Not memories this time, but something else. Peace, strength, the accumulated love of generations of women who'd carried this gift before her. She left that for you. Emma spun around. Adrian stood in the doorway, his expression softer than she'd ever seen it. You read the letters, he said. It wasn't a question. Emma nodded, clutching the pendant. Your grandfather had the gift too. According to family legend. Adrian stepped into the room, his movements careful, unthreatening. I always thought it was just romantic nonsense. Two lonely people finding solace in shared delusions. But now, Adrian's gray eyes met hers. Now I've seen what you can do. I've watched you touch my grandmother's things and know secrets no one else could possibly know. Emma fastened the pendant around her neck, feeling its weight settle against her heart. Eleanor says you want to fix me. Don't you want to be fixed? Adrian asked quietly. Don't you get tired of carrying everyone else's pain? Emma considered the question seriously. Every day. But your grandmother was right. It's not a flaw to be corrected. It's who I am. Who we are, Adrian corrected softly. Emma's heart skipped. What? The brain scans, Emma. You're not the only one with unusual neural patterns. Adrian sat on the edge of Eleanor's bed, suddenly looking exhausted. I don't have your gift exactly, but I have something. The ability to influence emotional memories, to ease people's pain by taking some of it into myself. Emma stared at him. That's why you want to erase memories. You're already carrying too many that aren't yours. Adrian nodded, looking defeated. I thought if I could perfect the technology, I could save us both. Give us normal lives. Emma sat beside him, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his body. Her gift was quiet now, the pendant somehow filtering the overwhelming emotions down to manageable levels. What if normal isn't what we need? She asked softly. Adrian looked at her, hope and desperation warring in his gray eyes. What do you mean? Emma took his hand, feeling the jolt of connection between them. What if we were meant to find each other? Two people who understand what it's like to carry too much, feel too much. Emma. Adrian's voice was rough. Your grandparents made it work, she continued. They loved each other not despite their gifts, but because of them. For a moment, the walls around Adrian's heart seemed to crumble entirely. Emma could feel his longing, his desperate wish to believe that love could be enough. Then reality crashed back in. They lived in a simpler time, Adrian said, pulling his hand away. They didn't have to deal with the modern world, with the constant bombardment of emotions from strangers. The technology exists to help us, Emma. Why suffer when we don't have to? Emma's heart broke a little. Even surrounded by evidence of his grandparents' epic love story, Adrian couldn't bring himself to believe. The scared 12-year-old boy was still there, still convinced that loving someone meant losing them. Because suffering shared is suffering halved, she said softly, echoing words from Eleanor's letters. And joy shared is joy doubled. Adrian stood abruptly, running a hand through his dark hair. I should let you get back to work. As he turned to leave, Emma called after him. Your grandmother loved you exactly as you are, Adrian. Gifts and all. He paused in the doorway but didn't turn around. My grandmother is dead. The words hung in the air long after he'd gone, sharp with pain and finality. Emma touched the pendant at her throat, drawing strength from the love it held. Eleanor might be gone, but her love remained. Her hope remained. And Emma was beginning to understand why fate had brought her to this house, to this man. Adrian Cross didn't need his memories erased. He needed to remember how to trust in love again. And Emma was going to help him, whether he wanted her to or not. Act 3. Dangerous attraction scene. 5. First kiss. During thunderstorm. 3 days had passed since Emma discovered the letters. 3 days of careful politeness, of Adrian treating her like a colleague instead of whatever they were becoming. But Emma could feel the tension building between them like electricity in the air before a storm, which was fitting, since another storm was rolling in. Emma was in Eleanor's sitting room, cataloging a collection of music boxes. There were dozens of them, each one singing with different memories. She'd learned to brace herself before touching them, to let Eleanor's pendant filter the worst of the emotional overflow. Lightning flashed outside the tall windows, followed by a rumble of thunder that made the music boxes chime in harmony. Emma smiled despite herself. Even inanimate objects seemed to respond to the charged atmosphere. Working late again? Emma's pulse jumped. Adrian stood in the doorway, his usually perfect hair slightly mussed, his tie loosened. He looked tired, human in a way that made her heart ache. I could say the same about you, she replied, setting down a particularly ornate music box shaped like a carousel. Mrs. Henley says you've been in your lab since dawn. Adrian stepped into the room and immediately Emma's gift reacted to his presence. Exhaustion, frustration, and underneath it all, that constant current of loneliness that seemed to define him. The memory modification program is hitting roadblocks, he admitted, settling into Eleanor's favorite armchair. The neural patterns are more complex than I anticipated. Emma bit back her first response, that maybe his program was failing because memories weren't meant to be erased. Instead, she asked, "What kind of roadblocks?" "The brain doesn't want to let go," Adrian said, his voice thoughtful. "Even traumatic memories serve a purpose. They're woven into our neural networks in ways that make selective deletion nearly impossible. Remove one thread, and you risk unraveling everything. Like trying to edit a tapestry while you're still weaving it," Emma offered. Adrian looked at her with something like surprise. "That's actually a perfect analogy." Thunder crashed overhead, closer this time. The lights flickered, and several music boxes started playing at once, their melodies creating a strange, beautiful harmony. "They're responding to the storm," Emma said, gesturing toward the singing music boxes. "Eleanor must have wound them all at some point. The vibrations from the thunder are setting them off." But even as she said it, Emma knew it was more than that. She could feel the memories stored in each delicate mechanism. Decades of Eleanor's emotions given musical form. Love songs and lullabies, celebration melodies and mourning dirges, all of it responding to the electricity in the air. Another flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed immediately by thunder. The storm was directly overhead now. "We should probably head downstairs," Adrian said, but neither of them moved. Instead, Emma found herself walking to the window, drawn by the raw power of the storm. Rain lashed against the glass in sheets, and the wind howled through the trees like something alive. "I used to be terrified of storms," she said softly, aware that Adrian had followed her to the window. "After my mom died, every loud noise made me think the world was ending again." "What changed?" His voice was closer now, just behind her left shoulder. Emma smiled, touching her pendant. "Eleanor's grandmother, actually. I found a diary entry where she wrote about storms being the Earth's way of crying, releasing all the pent-up emotion in one spectacular display. She said there was beauty in that kind of raw feeling. Even when it's destructive?" Emma turned to face him, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Close enough to see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes, close enough to smell his cologne mixing with the scent of rain and ozone. "Especially then," she whispered. "The most powerful emotions always have the potential to destroy or create. It depends on what you do with them." Lightning flashed again, and in that brief, brilliant moment, Emma saw Adrian's mask slip completely. She saw longing and fear and desperate hope all warring in his expression. She saw a man who wanted to believe in love but was terrified of the cost. And then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in a moment later, bathing the room in a soft, romantic glow. The music boxes had stopped playing, leaving only the sound of rain and their synchronized breathing. "Emma." Adrian's voice was rough, uncertain. She reached up to touch his face, her fingers tracing the sharp line of his jaw. Her gift exploded with sensation, his surprise at her touch, the way his heart rate spiked, the sudden flood of want that made her own pulse race. "I know you're scared," she said softly. "I can feel it. But I'm not going anywhere, Adrian. I'm not your parents, and I'm not going to disappear." "You don't understand," he said, but his hands came up to cover hers, holding her touch against his skin. "Everyone I love leaves. It's not their fault, it's just me. I'm cursed." "You're not cursed," Emma said fiercely. "You're loved. By Eleanor, by Mrs. Henley, by you?" The question was barely a whisper. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. They were crossing a line here, moving from whatever professional relationship they'd maintained into something dangerous and real. "Yes," she breathed. "By me." The last of Adrian's resistance crumbled. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her face up toward his. "This is a mistake," he murmured even as he lowered his head. "Probably," Emma agreed, rising on her tiptoes to meet him halfway. Their lips met as thunder crashed overhead, and Emma's world exploded into sensation. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, as if Adrian was afraid she might disappear if he held too tight. But when Emma pressed closer, her hands fisting in his shirt, something wild broke free in him. His mouth claimed hers with desperate hunger, and Emma's gift went into overdrive. She could feel everything he was feeling, the way her touch set his nerve endings on fire, the way kissing her felt like coming home and falling off a cliff at the same time. Years of loneliness and careful control shattered under the weight of connection. Emma kissed him back with equal fervor, pouring all her own longing into the contact. She felt drunk on the taste of him, on the way his hands trembled as they framed her face, on the soft sound he made when she nipped at his lower lip. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "Emma," he said, her name a prayer and a plea. "I know," she whispered, understanding without words. This changed everything. There was no going back to polite professionalism now. Lightning flashed again, and in its brief illumination, Emma saw something shift in Adrian's eyes. Not regret exactly, but a kind of desperate resolve. "I should go," he said, but his hands were still in her hair, still holding her close. "You should," Emma agreed, but she didn't step back. They stood there in the emergency lighting, caught between wanting and wisdom, until another crash of thunder made the decision for them. The sound was so loud it seemed to shake the very foundations of the house. "The generator's in the basement," Adrian said, practical concerns finally overriding the charged moment. "I should check on it." Emma nodded, stepping back reluctantly. The loss of contact was like a physical ache. "Emma," Adrian said as he reached the doorway. When she looked at him, his expression was raw, unguarded. "This isn't over." It was a promise and a warning all at once. After he left, Emma sank into Eleanor's armchair, her legs suddenly unsteady. Her lips still tingled from his kiss, and her gift was still processing the emotional echoes of their connection. Outside, the storm raged on, but Emma felt oddly at peace. Whatever happened next, whatever walls Adrian tried to rebuild, she'd felt his truth in that kiss. He loved her. Maybe he wouldn't admit it. Maybe he'd fight it. But the emotion was there. Real. Overwhelming. Undeniable. The music boxes began to play again as the main power flickered back on, their melodies weaving together in a symphony of hope. Eleanor would have approved. Scene 6, Emma's gift. Overwhelms her. Adrian saves her. The next morning brought sunshine and the kind of crisp air that made everything seem possible. Emma arrived at the mansion with a spring in her step, her lips still tingling from memories of Adrian's kiss. She found Mrs. Henley in the kitchen, humming as she prepared breakfast. "You look radiant this morning, dear," the housekeeper observed with a knowing smile. "Storm agrees with you, does it?" Emma blushed, but before she could respond, Mrs. Henley continued. "Mr. Adrian's already left for the city, some urgent business meeting, but he asked me to give you this." She handed Emma a small wrapped package. Inside, Emma found an antique compass, its brass surface warm to the touch. A note was tucked beneath it in Adrian's precise handwriting. "For when you need to find your way back." Emma's gift flared as she touched the compass, but instead of memories, she felt something else. Recent emotions, still clinging to the metal. Adrian's feelings from that morning, hope warring with fear, determination mixed with doubt, and underneath it all, a fierce protectiveness that made her heart race. He'd left her a token, something to anchor her when her gift became overwhelming. The gesture was so thoughtful, so perfectly attuned to her needs, that Emma had to blink back tears. "He's a good man," Mrs. Henley said softly. "Just needs someone brave enough to see past all that armor he wears." Emma tucked the compass into her pocket and headed to Eleanor's rooms, feeling more optimistic than she had in weeks. Today, she would finish cataloging the music boxes. Tomorrow, maybe she and Adrian could finally talk about what was happening between them. She should have known it wouldn't be that simple. The trouble started with Eleanor's jewelry collection. Emma had been avoiding it, knowing that personal jewelry tended to hold the strongest emotional imprints. But with most of the other items cataloged, she couldn't put it off any longer. The first few pieces were manageable. A pearl necklace that sang of birthday celebrations. A charm bracelet heavy with memories of Christmases and graduations. Emma's pendant helped filter the emotions, keeping them from overwhelming her completely. But then she found Eleanor's engagement ring. The moment Emma's fingers closed around the vintage setting, the world exploded. Love. Desperate, all-consuming love that burned like fire in her veins. William's hands on her skin, his voice rough with passion. "I'll love you until the stars burn out, Ellie. Beyond that." Their wedding night, shy touches becoming bold caresses, two souls merging into one. The ring sliding onto her finger, sealing a promise that would last 60 years. The emotions hit Emma like a tidal wave. Not just Eleanor's memories, but William's too, somehow stored in the metal band. Decades of passion and devotion, of fights and reconciliations, of love so deep it defied description. Emma tried to drop the ring, but her fingers wouldn't obey. The memories kept coming faster now, overwhelming her nervous system. Eleanor crying over a positive pregnancy test, tears of joy. William pacing the hospital hallway, waiting for news. A tiny hand gripping Eleanor's finger, Adrian's father taking his first breath. Years of lullabies and scraped knees, of Christmas mornings and bedtime stories. Then darkness, a phone call in the night, two young lives snuffed out in an instant. Eleanor and William holding each other, drowning in grief for their lost son and daughter-in-law, but also determination. They would save their grandson. They would love him enough for all of them. Emma was drowning. The ring seemed to pulse in her hand, each throb bringing new waves of emotion. Joy and sorrow, passion and grief, all mixed together until she couldn't tell where Eleanor's feelings ended and her own began. She tried to call out, but no sound came. Her pendant was glowing against her chest, but even its protection wasn't enough for this level of emotional intensity. Adrian as a boy, running to his grandparents after another nightmare. Eleanor holding him as he cried, her love a fortress around his broken heart. William teaching teenage Adrian to drive, to shave, to be a man. All the conversations they'd had about love, about taking chances, about the importance of letting people in. And through it all, their desperate hope that someday Adrian would find what they had found, someone to love him completely, broken pieces and all. Emma's knees buckled. She hit the floor hard, the ring finally falling from her nerveless fingers. But the damage was done. Her gift was in overdrive, her neural pathways flooded with 60 years of someone else's emotions. She was lost in the flood, drowning in feelings that weren't her own, when strong arms lifted her from the floor. "Emma! Emma, look at me!" Adrian's voice cut through the chaos like a lifeline. Emma opened eyes she didn't remember closing and found herself cradled against his chest, his gray eyes dark with worry. "The ring!" she gasped. "So much, I can't—" "Shh." Adrian's hand smoothed over her hair, his touch grounding her in the present. "I've got you. You're safe." But Emma could still feel the emotional echoes battering at her consciousness. Too much love, too much pain, all threatening to wash her away entirely. "I can't make it stop," she whispered, clinging to Adrian's shirt. Adrian's jaw clenched. Without hesitation, he pressed his palm to her forehead, his eyes falling closed in concentration. Emma felt it immediately, a cool, soothing presence in her mind. Adrian's gift, she realized. He was somehow absorbing the emotional overflow, taking the pain into himself to ease her burden. "Don't," she protested weakly. "It's too much. You'll hurt yourself." "Let me," Adrian said through gritted teeth. "Let me help you." Gradually, the storm in Emma's mind began to calm. Adrian's presence acted like a filter, drawing away the most overwhelming emotions and leaving only manageable echoes. The relief was so profound that Emma started crying. "Better?" Adrian asked softly, his own face pale from the effort. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. She was still curled in his arms and she never wanted to leave. His heartbeat was steady beneath her cheek, his warmth chasing away the last of the emotional chill. "Your grandparents," she managed finally. "They loved each other so much it hurt." Adrian's arms tightened around her. "Too much?" "No," Emma said, remembering Eleanor's fierce joy every time she looked at William. "Just intensely. Completely. The kind of love that changes you at a molecular level." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Is that what you want? That kind of love?" Emma pulled back to look at him, seeing the vulnerability he was trying to hide. "Is that what scares you? Loving someone that much?" "Yes," Adrian admitted. "Because what happens when they leave? How do you survive losing something that essential?" Emma thought of Eleanor's final days, the way she'd faced death with grace because she'd known her love would live on in Adrian. "You survive because love doesn't die," she said softly. "It changes form, but it doesn't disappear. Your grandparents' love lives on in you, Adrian. In the way you tried to save me just now, even though it cost you." Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Hope, maybe. Or recognition. "Emma," he started, but she pressed her fingers to his lips. "I know this is terrifying," she said. "Trust me. Feeling this much, wanting this much, it scares me too. But running from it won't make it go away." Adrian caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. "What if I can't do it? What if I'm too damaged to love someone the way they deserve?" Emma smiled, thinking of all the love she'd felt in Eleanor's memories. All of it directed toward the broken boy who'd grown into this complicated man. "Then it's a good thing I specialize in damaged things," she said. "I can see the beauty in broken pieces, remember?" Adrian's laugh was shaky, but genuine. "Is that your professional opinion, Ms. Chen?" "That's my personal opinion, Mr. Cross." This time, when Adrian kissed her, there was no storm to hide behind, no emergency lighting to excuse the intimacy. Just two people choosing connection over safety, love over fear. Emma's gift sang with the rightness of it, and somewhere in the distance, she could swear she heard Eleanor's music boxes playing in perfect harmony. Act 4. Betrayal and Choice Scene 7. Emma discovers Adrian's true plan. Emma should have known something was wrong when Adrian started being too perfect. For 2 weeks after the incident with Eleanor's ring, he'd been everything she could have asked for. Thoughtful gifts appeared at her workspace, rare books about memory and emotion, a vintage camera that somehow knew exactly which photos would speak to her gift. He brought her coffee every morning, asked about her work with genuine interest, and kissed her goodbye each evening as if she were the most precious thing in his world. It was everything Emma had dreamed of, which was exactly why it felt wrong. The Adrian she was falling in love with was complicated, wounded, brilliantly difficult. This polished version felt like a performance, beautiful, but hollow. And her gift kept picking up emotions from him that didn't match his actions. Calculation where there should be spontaneity. Determination where there should be contentment. The truth came to light on a rainy Thursday morning when Emma arrived early to find Adrian's laptop abandoned in Eleanor's sitting room, still logged into his secure server. Emma tried to ignore it. She really did. But when the screensaver cleared and she saw her own name in the file directory, curiosity won over ethics. Emma Chen, neurological profile, confidential. Her blood ran cold. The file was extensive. Brain scans taken without her knowledge, detailed analyses of her neural patterns, psychological evaluations based on hidden cameras and audio recordings. Every conversation they'd had, every reaction she'd shown to Eleanor's belongings, every intimate moment they'd shared, all of it documented and studied like she was a laboratory specimen. But it was the final document that shattered her heart. Project Tabula Rasa, Phase 3 Implementation. Subject, Emma Chen Procedure, Selective Memory Modification with Consent. Target memories, childhood trauma, parental loss, emotional oversensitivity episodes. Expected outcome, elimination of empathic synesthesia, normal emotional processing restored. Emma stared at the screen in horror. Adrian wasn't trying to understand her gift. He was planning to destroy it. And worse, he was planning to convince her to let him do it. The supporting documents painted a clear picture. Adrian had orchestrated everything from the beginning. Eleanor's estate needed no memory curator. Adrian had hired Emma specifically because of her reputation for having an unusual intuition about emotional objects. He'd spent months researching her background, her abilities, her psychological vulnerabilities. Even their meeting that first night hadn't been chance. Adrian had been waiting for her, watching her reactions, already planning how to use her gift to perfect his memory modification technology. Every kiss, every tender moment, every time he'd made her feel special and understood, all of it had been manipulation designed to make her trust him enough to volunteer for his procedure. Emma's hands shook as she scrolled through recorded conversations, seeing her own words twisted into evidence of her desire to be normal. Adrian had been building a case, documenting every moment she'd expressed frustration with her gift, every time she'd wished for peace from the overwhelming emotions. He was going to argue that erasing her abilities would be a mercy. Emma. She spun around to find Adrian in the doorway, his expression carefully neutral. But her gift, still intact despite his plans, picked up his real emotions. Panic, guilt, and underneath it all, genuine affection that somehow made his betrayal even worse. "You've been planning this from the beginning," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. Adrian stepped into the room, moving slowly as if approaching a wounded animal. "Let me explain." "Explain what? How you've been lying to me for weeks? How you studied me like a bug under a microscope?" "It's not what you think." Emma laughed bitterly. "Really? Because I think you hired me specifically to study my gift, manipulated me into trusting you, and now you're planning to erase the part of me that makes me who I am." Adrian's mask slipped, showing a flash of the vulnerable man she'd thought she was falling in love with. "Emma, I was trying to help you. By destroying what makes me unique. By freeing you from a burden you never asked for." Adrian's composure cracked, raw emotion bleeding through. "Do you think I wanted to fall for you? Do you think any of this was easy?" Emma's gift reacted to his sincerity, showing her the truth he was trying to hide. He had fallen for her. Somewhere between the clinical observations and carefully orchestrated encounters, Adrian Cross had done the one thing he'd sworn never to do again. He'd let someone past his walls, and it was tearing him apart. "You fell for a version of me you were planning to erase," Emma said quietly. "I fell for you despite your gift, not because of it," Adrian shot back. "I love your strength, your compassion, your brilliant mind. I love the way you see beauty in broken things and hope in lost causes. Your empathic abilities aren't what make you special, Emma. They're what's hurting you. They're part of me, Adrian. They're how I found the real you underneath all that armor." Adrian ran a hand through his hair, frustration radiating from him in waves. "And look where that got you. You nearly had a breakdown from touching one ring. How long before your gift overwhelms you completely? How long before you lose yourself in other people's emotions?" Emma touched her pendant, drawing strength from Eleanor's love. That's my choice to make. Not if I can save you from it. The words hung between them like a blade. Adrian truly believed he was saving her, which somehow made his betrayal even more devastating. What about consent? Emma asked. The file mentioned consent. Adrian's jaw tightened. The procedure works best when the subject is willing. I was going to show you the research, demonstrate how much better your life could be without the constant emotional bombardment. You would have chosen it yourself. After you manipulated me into thinking I wanted it. After I showed you a better way to live. Emma stared at the man she'd thought she loved, seeing clearly for the first time. Adrian Cross was brilliant, wounded, and so terrified of losing control that he'd rather destroy what he loved than risk being hurt by it. You're not trying to save me, she said softly. You're trying to save yourself. If I don't have my gift anymore, you won't have to deal with someone who can see past your walls. Adrian flinched as if she'd slapped him. That's not true. Isn't it? As long as I can feel your emotions, you can never fully control how I see you. And control is what you're really after, isn't it? A love that's safe because it's engineered. Emma, please. No. Emma closed the laptop with deliberate care, her decision crystallizing. I won't let you erase who I am because you're afraid of what I might feel. She walked past him toward the door, but Adrian caught her arm gently. Where are you going? Emma looked down at his hand on her arm, then back at his face. Even now, even after everything, her gift was picking up his genuine anguish. He did love her, in his broken, controlling way. But love without trust, without acceptance, wasn't love at all. Away from you, she said simply. I need to think. Emma, wait. Let me show you the research. Let me prove that this could work. The only thing you've proven is that you don't love me enough to let me choose my own pain. Emma pulled free and walked away, leaving Adrian standing alone in his grandmother's sitting room, surrounded by all the evidence of a love he was too afraid to trust. Behind her, she heard the crash of something breaking. A music box, maybe, or just the sound of a heart finally cracking under the weight of its own walls. Scene 8. The memory erasing procedure begins. Emma had been gone for 3 days. 3 days of Adrian pacing his laboratory like a caged animal, staring at monitors that showed Emma's empty house, replaying every word of their last conversation until they lost all meaning. Mrs. Henley had tried to intervene, bringing him meals he didn't eat, and gentle lectures about pride and stubbornness. Even she didn't know the full truth. That Adrian had built his entire relationship with Emma on a foundation of lies and scientific manipulation. On the 4th day Emma returned, Adrian was in his lab making final calibrations to the memory modification equipment when he heard her car in the driveway. His heart hammered against his ribs as her footsteps echoed through the mansion, growing closer. She appeared in his lab doorway like an answer to prayers he'd been afraid to voice. But there was something different about her. A resolve in her posture, a clarity in her dark eyes that made Adrian's stomach drop. I'll do it, she said without preamble. Adrian's hand stilled on the keyboard. What? Your procedure. I'll volunteer for the memory modification. Emma stepped into the lab, her expression eerily calm. But I have conditions. Adrian's relief was so profound it made him dizzy. She'd come back. She was willing to let him help her. Anything. First, I want to see all the research, every file, every study, every piece of data you've collected. I won't go into this blind. Of course. Adrian gestured toward the massive wall of monitors. I've compiled everything here. Second, I want to choose which memories to modify. Not you, not some algorithm. Me. Adrian nodded, though unease prickled at the back of his mind. Emma's tone was too controlled, too clinical. Where was the woman who'd fought him so fiercely just days ago? And third, Emma continued, if this goes wrong, if the procedure damages something it shouldn't, you stop trying to fix people's pain. No more memory modification research. No more playing God with human emotion. Emma, promise me, Adrian. He studied her face, searching for the warmth that had drawn him like a moth to flame. It was still there, buried beneath layers of determination and something that looked almost like pity. I promise, he said quietly. Over the next several hours, Adrian walked Emma through 20 years of research, brain scans and neural maps, case studies, and theoretical frameworks. She asked intelligent questions, took detailed notes, and showed no emotion at all as Adrian explained how the procedure would strip away her empathic abilities forever. The process is surprisingly elegant, Adrian found himself saying, falling back into lecture mode to hide his growing unease. We map the specific neural pathways associated with your empathic responses, then use targeted electromagnetic pulses to essentially disconnect those connections. You'll retain all your regular memories, but the emotional resonance attached to objects will be gone. And the side effects? Adrian hesitated. Some patients report feeling emotionally distant afterward, less engaged with others. But that's a fair trade for freedom from overwhelming empathy, don't you think? Emma's smile was sad. Is it? Before Adrian could answer, she was moving toward the procedure chair, a complex piece of equipment that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Multiple screens surrounded it, displaying readouts Adrian didn't recognize. Emma, we don't have to do this today. You could take more time to think. I've thought enough. Emma settled into the chair, her hands steady as she fastened the safety restraints. I've spent 3 days remembering every moment of my life where my gift caused me pain. My mother's death, my father's withdrawal, all the times I've been overwhelmed by other people's emotions. You're right, Adrian. It would be easier without it. Adrian should have felt vindicated. This was what he'd wanted. Emma, choosing to be saved. So why did victory taste like ashes in his mouth? There's one more thing, Emma said as Adrian began attaching the neural monitoring sensors to her temples. I want you to be connected to the system too. Adrian's hands stilled. What? Your own gift, Adrian. Your ability to absorb emotional pain. If you're going to erase mine, you should erase yours too. We'll be normal together. Panic flared in Adrian's chest. That's not... The procedure isn't designed for... You have a second chair, Emma pointed out, nodding toward equipment he'd installed but never used. For monitoring purposes, you said. It could easily be modified to perform the procedure on 2 subjects simultaneously. Emma, I don't need... Don't you? Her dark eyes pinned him in place. Isn't that the whole point? Freedom from gifts that cause more pain than joy? Adrian opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. Because she was right, and they both knew it. His ability to absorb others' emotional pain had been driving him toward this research for years. Every person he'd tried to help, every fragment of trauma he'd taken into himself, it was slowly destroying him. But the idea of losing it, of losing the one thing that connected him to his grandmother's memory. I can see you're scared, Emma said softly. I can feel it, actually. Your fear tastes like copper and regret. Adrian's throat tightened. After today, you won't be able to feel that anymore. I know. Emma's voice was impossibly gentle. Are you sure this is what you want, Adrian? For both of us to lose the things that make us who we are? I want you to be happy, Adrian said, the words torn from somewhere deep in his chest. I want you to live without pain. Even if it means you can never fully know me again? Even if it means I can never fully know you? Adrian's hands shook as he finished attaching the sensors. The monitors around them hummed to life, displaying the complex neural patterns that made Emma who she was. In a few hours, those patterns would be gone forever. It's better this way, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Emma reached out and took his hand, her gift flaring one last time between them. Adrian gasped as he felt her emotions wash over him. love and forgiveness, and a sorrow so deep it made his knees weak. She knew, Emma whispered. Who knew what? Eleanor. She knew you'd try to save me from my gift instead of learning to love me with it. Emma's thumb traced over his knuckles. That's why she left me the pendant, why she wrote that letter. She was trying to warn us both. Adrian wanted to pull away, wanted to deny it, but Emma's touch was showing him truths he'd been hiding from himself. His grandmother had spent her last months hoping he'd find someone to heal his wounded heart, not someone to fix according to his specifications. It's too late, Adrian said hoarsely. The equipment is calibrated, the procedure is ready. It's not too late until we flip that switch, Emma interrupted. We still have a choice, Adrian. We can choose to trust love instead of engineering it. Adrian stared at the woman he loved, strapped into a chair that would erase everything that made her extraordinary, everything that had drawn him to her in the first place. And for the first time since his parents died, Adrian Cross wondered if he'd been wrong about everything. What are you saying? He whispered. Emma smiled, and for the first time in days it reached her eyes. I'm saying maybe the problem isn't that we feel too much. Maybe the problem is that we're too afraid to feel enough. The monitors beeped steadily around them, waiting for Adrian's command. One button press would begin the procedure that would save them both from the pain of loving too deeply. All he had to do was choose safety over trust, control over connection, fear over love. Adrian's finger hovered over the activation switch, his entire future balanced on the edge of a decision that would define the rest of his life. In the background, almost too faint to hear, one of Eleanor's music boxes began to play. Act 5. Love Conquers All Scene. 9. Emma chooses love over peace. The music box melody drifted through the laboratory like a ghost, its familiar tune cutting through the hum of machinery and the sound of Adrian's ragged breathing. Emma recognized it immediately, the lullaby Eleanor used to sing to young Adrian when nightmares kept him awake. Sleep now, my darling, dream of tomorrow. Love will keep all your fears at bay. You don't have to fix me, Adrian, you just have to accept me. What if I can't? What if I'm too damaged, too controlling? Then we'll figure it out together. Emma shifted in the chair, the neural sensors tugging at her temples. That's what love is, choosing someone's flaws along with their strengths. Adrian was quiet for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the monitors displaying Emma's neural patterns. All the complexity that made her who she was, mapped out in real time. You came back, he said finally. Even after everything I did, you came back. I came back to give you a choice, Emma corrected, to let you see what you'd really be erasing. Adrian looked at her then, really looked, and Emma felt the moment he finally understood. She hadn't come back broken and desperate for his cure. She'd come back whole, gift and all, offering him the chance to love her as she was. You never intended to go through with the procedure, he said. Emma smiled. I intended to let you choose between the woman you wanted me to be and the woman I actually am. That's not fair, Adrian said, but there was wonder in his voice instead of anger. Love isn't fair, it's honest. Adrian moved closer to the chair, his hands gentle as he began removing the neural sensors from Emma's temples. Each one he lifted felt like a small liberation. I'm terrified, he admitted, of losing you, of hurting you, of not being enough. I know. Emma caught his hands as he freed the last sensor. I can feel it, but I can also feel how much you love me, even when you're trying to hide it. Your gift, Adrian said, understanding dawning in his expression. That's why you can see through my walls. Not because you're psychic, but because emotions leave traces. Real, measurable traces that you can perceive. Like reading the story written in someone's heartbeat, Emma agreed. And your story, Adrian Cross, is one of the most beautiful I've ever read. Tragic, yes. Complicated, absolutely. But beautiful. Adrian helped her out of the chair, his touch reverent, as if he was afraid she might disappear. Even the broken parts? especially the broken parts. Emma stepped into his arms, feeling the rightness of it settle into her bones. Broken things can still be beautiful. Sometimes they're more beautiful because they've been broken. Adrian buried his face in her hair, his arms tightening around her. Through her gift, Emma felt his surrender, not to defeat, but to possibility, to the terrifying, wonderful chance that love might actually be enough. "I destroyed my life's work for you," he murmured against her temple. Emma pulled back to look at him. "What do you mean?" Adrian gestured toward the memory modification equipment. "I can't use any of this research now, not after seeing what I almost did to you. The whole program was built on the idea that emotional pain is something to be eliminated, but pain shared is pain halved," Emma finished softly, echoing Eleanor's words. "And joy shared is joy doubled," Adrian completed the quote, his smile soft and wondering. She really did know, didn't she? What we'd need to hear. The music box melody swelled around them, as if Eleanor herself was expressing approval from wherever love goes when it changes form. "So what happens now?" Emma asked. Adrian was quiet for a moment, considering. When he spoke, his voice held a new certainty. "Now I learned to love you exactly as you are, gift and all, pain and all." He cupped her face in his hands, his gray eyes steady and sure. "And maybe I learned to accept my own gift too. Instead of seeing it as a burden, maybe I can see it as a way to help people heal rather than forget." Emma's heart soared. "You'd really give up the memory modification research?" "I'd give up everything for you," Adrian said simply. "But I don't have to, do I? Because you're not asking me to change who I am. You're asking me to accept who I am. And love myself enough to let you love me back," Emma added. "That might take some practice." Emma laughed, the sound bright and joyful in the sterile laboratory. "Good thing I'm patient." Adrian kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Through her gift, Emma felt his love wash over her, no longer hidden behind walls of fear and control, but open and vulnerable and absolutely real. When they broke apart, the music box had stopped playing, but the silence didn't feel empty, it felt full of possibility. "Come on," Emma said, taking Adrian's hand. "Let's go home." "Home?" Emma gestured toward the doorway, toward the rest of the mansion where Eleanor's love still lived in every carefully preserved memory. "This house has been waiting for us to stop running from who we are," she said. "Maybe it's time we gave it the love story it deserves." As they walked out of the laboratory together, leaving the memory modification equipment dark and silent, Adrian made a mental note to call his research team in the morning. The memory modification program would be discontinued, but perhaps the technology could be repurposed. Instead of erasing trauma, maybe they could find ways to help people process it, heal from it, grow stronger because of it. After all, Emma had taught him that the most powerful healing came not from forgetting pain, but from finding someone willing to share it. And share it, they would. Scene 10. Adrian destroys his life's work for love. 6 months later, Emma stood in what used to be Adrian's memory modification laboratory, watching as workers carefully dismantled the last of the equipment. Where complex neural mapping displays had once hummed with data, warm afternoon sunlight now streamed through newly installed windows. "No regrets?" she asked, slipping her arms around Adrian's waist from behind. He leaned back against her, solid and warm and wonderfully present. "Only that it took me so long to realize what really mattered." The transformation hadn't happened overnight. Adrian's journey from control to trust had been measured in small moments. The first time he'd let Emma comfort him during a nightmare without trying to deflect her concern. The morning he'd asked for her help instead of trying to solve everything himself. The evening he'd finally told her about the weight of carrying other people's emotional pain and let her share that burden. "The new research center is almost ready," Adrian said, nodding toward the architectural plans spread across a nearby table. Where his memory modification lab had been, They were building something entirely different, a treatment center focused on helping trauma survivors process their experiences rather than escape them. Dr. Martinez thinks we'll be ready to accept our first patients by next month, Emma added. The therapist they'd hired to head the program had been skeptical at first about Adrian's unconventional approach, but the preliminary results spoke for themselves. Using Adrian's gift to temporarily absorb patients' overwhelming emotions while they worked through trauma in therapy had shown remarkable success rates. And Emma's ability to help people understand the emotional history stored in meaningful objects was proving invaluable in family therapy and grief counseling. Strange how what we thought were curses turned out to be exactly what the world needed, Adrian mused. Emma smiled, thinking of Eleanor's letter. Love is not the absence of pain, Adrian. It's the courage to feel everything and choose connection anyway. Your grandmother would be proud, she said. I think she already knew how this would end. Adrian turned in Emma's arms, his gray eyes warm with love and contentment. She planned it all, didn't she? Hiring you, leaving you the pendant, even that music box playing when we needed to hear it most. Adrian Cross was a very wise woman. She was also a hopeless romantic who believed in true love and happy endings. Emma laughed. And she was absolutely right. Adrian kissed her then, soft and sure and perfect. Through her gift, Emma felt his emotions as clearly as her own. Love and gratitude and a deep, abiding peace she'd never thought possible for either of them. When they broke apart, Emma noticed something glinting on Adrian's hand. Her breath caught. Is that? Adrian smiled, holding up his hand so she could see the simple gold band on his ring finger. It was William's wedding ring, the one Eleanor had saved for 60 years. I found it this morning while we were packing up grandmother's things, he said. I thought, if you're ready, maybe it's time this ring started a new love story. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. Adrian Cross, are you proposing to me in your demolished laboratory? I'm proposing to you in the place where I almost lost you, Adrian corrected. Where I finally learned that love isn't about controlling someone or fixing them. It's about accepting them completely, gifts and flaws and everything in between. Emma's eyes filled with tears as Adrian dropped to one knee, still holding her hands. Emma Chen, you saved my life by refusing to let me save yours. You loved me back to wholeness by showing me that broken doesn't mean worthless. Will you marry me? Through her gift, Emma felt the depth of his love, the absoluteness of his commitment. But more than that, she felt his certainty. This wasn't fear masquerading as love or control disguised as care. This was a man who'd found his match, his equal, his perfectly imperfect other half. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, of course, yes. Adrian slipped his grandfather's ring onto her finger, and Emma gasped as her gift flared. But instead of overwhelming her, the emotion stored in the metal felt like a blessing. 60 years of William and Eleanor's love, now passing to the next generation. I love you, Adrian said, standing to gather her in his arms. Gift and all, pain and all, exactly as you are. I love you too, Emma replied, broken pieces and all. As they kissed, surrounded by the ruins of Adrian's old life and the blueprints for their new one, Emma could swear she heard the distant sound of music boxes playing in harmony. Eleanor's love, given new voice through the happiness of her grandson. Later, as they walked through the mansion hand in hand, Emma paused at Eleanor's portrait in the main hallway. The painted eyes seemed to twinkle with satisfaction. Thank you, Emma whispered. Adrian squeezed her hand. For what? Emma smiled, thinking of all the ways love could surprise you, heal you, transform you into someone brave enough to feel everything and choose connection anyway. For teaching us that the best love stories aren't about finding someone perfect, she said. They're about finding someone willing to be imperfect together. Thunder rumbled in the distance, another storm approaching. But this time, Emma wasn't afraid. She had Adrian beside her, Eleanor's pendant around her neck, and a lifetime of beautiful, complicated, perfectly imperfect love ahead of them. Some gifts, she'd learned, were worth keeping after all. The end. Author's note. Our deepest wounds often become our greatest strengths when we find someone brave enough to love us completely. Emma and Adrian's journey reminds us that healing doesn't always mean forgetting. Sometimes it means finding someone willing to help us carry the weight. True love isn't about fixing someone or being fixed. It's about choosing to build something beautiful together, broken pieces and all. Love is not the absence of pain. It's the courage to feel everything and choose connection anyway. Adrian Cross.
Thank you for staying till the end. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like button, share, and comment. We'll love to hear from you.